Hello and welcome to the Hash and welcome to SHIB Flippening Doge Day. It's a big day in meme coin world. We're going to get straight to it. Let's go. Naomi, talk to me. What's happening?
Big day for meme coins. All right, so let's dive into it. A lot of news on the meme coin front. First of all, we have a new ad campaign in the UK. So apparently the Shiba Inu dog of Elon Musk named Floki has had a cryptocurrency named after it called Floki, and there are advertisements all over public transport in the UK for Floki. Oh my goodness. So I don't know how the Advertising Standards Authority is going to react to this. In the past, they have been pretty strict about what could be advertised in terms of cryptocurrency. But it is interesting to see all of this attention on Floki, especially after the other day Elon Musk said, do not buy Floki, do not buy meme coins, do not invest all of your hard-earned money in this. I do not own any Floki, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the first big news, this giant advertising campaign. But then you've got other things that Zach just alluded to. So Shiba Inu is doing crazy right now. It's another meme coin inspired by Dogecoin, but not Dogecoin. These are all very similar coins. I understand why you might be getting confused. So over the past year, it's surged 60 million%. And in the last 24 hours, it's up almost 30%. It's made a bunch of millionaires overnight. We can dig into that in a second, why you may not want to be enticed by things like this. And there's also a petition that has garnered over 300,000 signatures for Robinhood to list Shiba Inu on the site. Now, the Shiba has surged so much that it very briefly surpassed Doge in market value today, according to CoinGecko. So Shiba and Doge are kind of like fighting it out between 10th and 11th place on CoinGecko. A lot to dig into here. I have a lot of thoughts for sure, but I'm going to throw to Zach to start off with. What's your take on all of this meme coin rise? Where are we heading?
It's shocking. It's shocking, as one blockchain data analyst told my colleague Muya Shen this morning. The thing that stood out to me in our reporting this morning that I was scrambling to edit because everybody in the world seems to care about these crappy dog coins was that $160 million in what Nansen designates as smart money, according to the blockchain analytics platform, was behind this latest push, right? So Shiba has been an extremely retail phenomenon to date. And now we're slowly starting to see folks who have made a bit of money in the DeFi space plow their earnings into the SHIB. So that to me is an interesting piece of news here, right? You know, we understood this as one thing, this resilient army of small holders. All of a sudden, some bigger holders are getting involved. SHIB whales are trying to ride the wave. And it seems as though they're doing so to great effect as the self-proclaimed Dogecoin killer rests atop its originator. For the day, at least. So anyway, back to you, Naomi. That's my take.
Yeah, I mean, so let's talk about the slogan that this Floki coin has written on the UK underground. It says, "Missed Doge, get Floki." It's really preying on people's vulnerabilities. I feel like this is such a gambling meme, if anything. It's just kind of this degenerate, you know, I have a 1 in a trillion chance of becoming a trillionaire. I want to be like everyone else and get rich quick. I should dive into this. I mean, when I'm looking at coins, and I know, Will, you remarked yesterday, you're like, Naomi, you like all the coins. It's absolutely not true. I like things that I can use in my everyday life. So you'll find that the only things I talk about are things that I use, that, you know, have some sort of use case. I fail to see what coins like these, what their use is. Because we talk about the resilience of this army that Zach's alluded to, and, you know, how, oh, well, it's not going anywhere because these people are propping it up. It's like, what are they propping up? Are they propping up a house of cards? Like, what is the utility? Can I spend this at stores? Who accepts it? You know, are there discounts if I spend it at stores? Do any merchants accept it? Is it good for anything else? Like, I just don't see what the use case is. And maybe you're going to come after me, Floki army. Like, you may be a tight-knit community. You may be rallying around this thing that you believe in, but what are you actually believing in? Like, what is the underlying utility of something like this? How is this benefiting you? How is this giving you more freedom in your life or more self-sovereignty? Like, these are questions that people should be thinking before they dive into any project. There are lots of really interesting, cool tech out there, lots of things you can explore for making your life more free, or things you can use in your everyday life. I just fail to see what the use case of this is, other than it just, being speculated upon and people trying to get it into things like this into Robinhood. Like it seems like it's all just speculation and gambling. But that's my take there. Will, I'm gonna throw to you. Oh, Zach, maybe I'll throw back to you because your hand was up.
I just want to say, embrace the nihilism. All this stuff could be said for all crypto coins at some point, including Bitcoin and Dogecoin, which is now accepted at like Dallas Mavericks games. So people are believing in this thing and manifesting it into reality. Who knows? It could be a disastrous investment for these people. But one day there could be that use case that we herald so often on the show. But anyway, I'm sorry for jumping in. Will and Jen, I'm going to shut up now. And you guys should.
No, you said exactly what I was going to say. At some point, Bitcoin was the same thing, right? There's no use case for it, and people were just kind of playing around with it, mining it on their laptop, sending it to their friends as a prank, or buying pizza with it, buying pizza for 10,000 Bitcoin, right? So that's how all these things start off. So that's why I'm moving to the Shiba Inu tribe here. No, I'm just kidding.
What?
Wow.
Okay, I'm going to back Naomi up on this one. I think the ad in the subway, it just reminded, I think we need to learn lessons from our past, right? When Doge rallied, we saw all of these people who were suffering from FOMO take out massive loans and try and get into Doge because people were becoming millionaires overnight. And so I'm going to come back to the whole education narrative. I mean, don't pour all of your money in this because of FOMO. Like, understand what you're investing in. And so, Naomi, I completely back you up. I don't really think the advertising in the subway station was
Jen, I love your motherly instincts.
I don't think it was moral. I know. Sometimes I just go down this whole I just want to read the transport what the transport system for London said. They said that the capital's transport system is not responsible to carry out due diligence on individuals or entities that advertise on the network. And so it feels like there's like a whole process breakdown when it comes to advertising in the UK, because surely there is some kind of vetting process for ads. There are things that cannot go up on advertising. And so if the Advertising Standard Authority doesn't want these ads to go up, I feel like these two, they need to work together, because at the end of the day, they're just losing money. But anyways, that's my rant. That didn't really make a lot of sense, but I'm sure you guys picked up the key points from there, and I'll kick it back to you, Naomi.
Yeah, I'll just mention that the big difference between Bitcoin and Floki and Shiba and Doge and all of these things is that Bitcoin has the first mover advantage. It was novel tech. When Bitcoin came onto the scene, there was no such thing as a decentralized digital money. This enabled the transfer of payments without any trusted intermediary being needed. And so it was something that you just had nothing. There was no competition on the marketplace. This was the only solution. And more tech has come onto the scene since then, but you always have to ask yourself, like, what is the edge? If this is something you're pouring your savings into, what is the edge that one of these coins have? Because we already have things that enable fast transfer, instantaneous transfer of money or payments at merchants or all these other things. So as these latecomers, come onto the scene and they're just riding on meme power, what else do they have other than meme power? Like, yes, they can start to get accepted at merchants and all that. And I'm totally, if they start doing that, if there's utility and this is a case, I will start, looking at this and taking it more seriously. But I do worry when people are pouring their money into something on promises. We've seen a lot of that in the crypto space, things that haven't eventuated. I love the idea of people dreaming big, but just be careful with your money if, people are just riding on promises and the only value of something is speculation and there's actually no utility in your everyday life. Bitcoin had this first mover advantage, but these coins are late to the scene. They don't have the edge. They don't have the same infrastructure built around it. They don't have the same acceptance. So just think carefully there. But Zach, I did see your hand go up. So final thoughts before we move on.
I got nothing. I mean, in it for the tech. Are we all in it for the tech?
Did your hand go up?
In it for the tech.
He's emotionally drained from all this meme talk.
it's just so much. Like, I remember like wanting to fight this like earlier in the year and just be like, no, and being like the crying midwit guy. And now I'm just trying to get to the ends of the bell curve. I don't know which one. I don't know if I'm on the small brain or the big brain, But I'm just trying to get down
is the
from the
quickest
peak.
way.
Okay,
Just to be frank.
that's all we need. Take care of me, Will. Next time we hang. All right, your story now.
I'll help you out. Don't worry.
Thanks, man.
Let's move over to Cream Finance, which is a meme that has become extremely destructive. Cream Finance is a DeFi protocol that launched summer 2020, and now they have lost a lot of people's money. The DeFi project was exploited this morning for over $1 billion, and the hacker got away with over $100 million. This all affected funds on the Ethereum blockchain. Cream Finance operates on multiple different blockchains like Binance Smart Chain as well. And right now, the hacker seems to be liquidating their funds through different mixing protocols. So it looks like they're going to get away with a lot of it if they're quick enough. This is a huge exploit, not just in terms of the $100 million that they're walking away with, but also it took down an entire DeFi protocol, which hasn't happened very often, especially for something this large. $1 billion is a ton of money, and I'm sure that's going to draw in a lot of regulatory eyes into the space on it. Zach, I want to throw this one over to you.
Yeah, big numbers here, well articulated by our colleague Andrew Thurman, even though the numbers are different, right? So $1 billion was taken, $1 billion was drained, 130 million was taken, 40 million of that is illiquid. So we are right to think about this as a $100 million exploit. Will, check me on this. I could be talking totally crazy, but didn't this happen to Cream? Probably not the same exploit, but wasn't there a similar exploit that happened to Cream? Did you say that in your intro? Did I mess that up?
It did have, I didn't say it in my intro, but it did happen in February, I believe. There was a Cream hack as well. I don't remember how big it was though.
Yeah. So, again, I think, this just, again, speaks to the experimental nature of DeFi, right? And I think as regulators start paying attention to this stuff, the more examples that happen sort of toward the later end of this cycle, the more likely we are to see sort of regulatory pushback and like hand-wringing about what these platforms mean for users and how to protect them. So I think as it relates to like the current context around DeFi regulation, which we've seen some headlines about in recent months, I think this one, could be a big one that sort of bubbles up into a bigger awareness of some of the risks that are inherent to this space as people are able to sort of parse through these open code bases and find ways to game the system. So I'd be curious to see if this one became kind of a talking point in DeFi regulation. It's really obviously too early to tell. This just happened like a few hours ago, maybe if that. But it would be interesting to see if this one's stuck as a talking point when we think about how DeFi can sort of be compliant with existing financial regulations. So that to me, rather than the money in this one, is what I'm going to be watching from here out.
Totally, yeah. It's a novel exploit. Go ahead,
sorry,
Jen.
go for it.
Oh, who's even talking? I thought Jen was talking.
It was me.
Just mixing everyone up.
I know you can't tell the difference. We're both from the Commonwealth.
Just like
I'm just reiterating this.
And we're so short.
You're all the same person to me.
Yeah. That's all right. All right. Well, I was just going to say, I'm going to reiterate what you guys have already said. Big risks that you take for the potential of big upside, big rewards. And, it just goes to show like even these kind of well-established platforms that are not flash in the pan that have been around for a while and kind of established a reputation, it takes people to actually look at the code for it to be audited, right? And even when you do audits, people can miss things. Like it's very easy. Like software is filled with bugs. So just be aware of the risks before you pour your money into these things. I mean, it kind of speaks to the exuberance right now with all of this money we see flying around, all of the VC capital we see flying around, all of the people just like betting big on these crypto platforms. Like there is just such wild exuberance. And it's kind of what happens when you just have a tremendous amount of money being put into people's hands and you get all this malinvestment and augmentations in the markets. And we're just seeing the economy kind of go crazy right now. And people are kind of desperate as well. They're looking for things to safeguard their wealth. They're looking for things where they can get big returns because they're worried about the future. There's this kind of like low-level anxiety that, you can kind of feel. It's palpable right now. But people are worried about the future. They're just not sure what's coming next. And so it leads to kind of these irrational decisions and just throwing money after money into things because they think that it could set them up for life in a time of uncertainty. So just be careful out there, guys. Do a lot of research. These platforms, they're really interesting. Play around with them if you can, but just understand the risks involved with all of this stuff. But I'll throw it to you for tea, Zach.
Wise words from a true crypto OG, everybody. So hear that, listen to it, act on it. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a crypto regulation turf war that is a brewing in our nation's capital. Shout out to the US of A. We'll talk about that after the break. CFTC versus SEC over the future of crypto rules and regulations. Stick with us. It's The Hash. It's time for a break. All right. Hey there. Welcome back to The Hash. We hope you had a great break. We did. So we're going to talk about DC crypto regulation. It's a real hot topic these days. And this is an interesting development because the CFTC is out here saying, hey, crypto should be our thing. SEC, Gary Gensler, back off, bro. This is for us. A big chunk of the total crypto market cap, that's a commodity, according to existing designations of what Bitcoin and Ethereum is in the marketplace. Why aren't we running this thing? Commodities are in our name. So that's the latest from acting CFTC chair in a Senate hearing today. Interesting because we keep hearing about all the ways that crypto might be regulated in DC, and the CFTC clearly wants to angle in on that. So I'm going to toss this straight to Jen, because Jen is looking at the US context from Canada. And I think it's always interesting to get that outsider's perspective. Jen, what's going on here? What's this brewing turf war all about, as far as you can tell?
I just think regulators, they move so slow in some respects and so fast in others. And I think before we even get into the turf war, we need to just define what crypto is, how it's classified, and the criteria that goes into that classification. And then we can easily determine who is going to regulate it. I feel like we've jumped over so many steps, and I'm saying we, like I'm in the US of A, but the US has jumped over so many steps when it comes to this story. I just think it's kind of ridiculous. I think we need to take a few steps backwards, define what's actually going on, make sure everyone understands crypto, and then it will be easier to identify who the crypto cops can be. But Will, I see you smirking up there, so I'll bump it up. You're smirking.
Okay, fine. No, I think the CFTC is right in some regards, but the SEC does have a place if you take the approach that there should be regulators in the space at all, which I know Naomi would take preference with. But I will say that it makes sense for the CFTC to be involved because a lot of these assets are commodities in a sense. Bitcoin is supposed to be like a currency. Ethereum is supposed to be gas for the blockchain, kind of like a digital oil of sorts. At least that's what it was originally intended for. A lot of these other cryptocurrencies tout themselves as just payments on a network. They're used to fuel the network. It's not just a currency, or it's not just a security. So there is a huge difference between those two things. The security promises investment returns, and it's kind of like, you have ownership of part of a company. You don't have that with a lot of these tokens. You don't have ownership of a part of a company with Shiba Inu. You just don't. You have a part of a great joke, but you don't have anything else besides that. It does make sense for the SEC to be involved in some ways. There are things like security tokens out there, and there are some projects that frankly are just money grabs for teams, and they kind of operate as meme stocks for firms. So it makes sense to have both sides be in there. I'm just interested to see how this turf war plays out going forward, because I think it's going to be more fireworks going forward than less. Zach, I'll give it to you.
I think it's really complicated. I mean, you talk about like securities as being, guaranteeing future earnings, right? Well, like proof of stake as a concept, right? In which you stake tokens to a network and you earn rewards for doing so. These things don't fit neatly into existing understandings of how various investment products should be regulated. And I think that's why we're seeing this tug of war being like, wait a minute, well, for this part of the market, yeah, it's sort of like gold, CFTC, like we can do that. And then for this part of the market that we're still trying to figure out, it is kind of like securities. It may not be about owning a company per se, but it does resemble securities in some key features. So it's interesting to see this battle keep playing out. And as the market cap of the total crypto market cap gets bigger and bigger, these questions and these fights are going to get louder and louder. And I think we're starting to see that, especially when it comes to the alphabet soup of agencies in DC itself. Naomi, I saw your hand up. We got to get you on this one. I want to ask you a question, actually.
Let me ask in a second, because I've got a train of thought I want to.
Yeah. All right.
I just want to just follow something you were saying before. So you're talking about, and Will, you were talking about this as well, about like these DAOs and how you own part of a company and all of this stuff. Like it, comments like this from the CFTC really make me miss Brian Quintenz, who was a former CFTC commissioner who spoke extensively about DeFi and how it shouldn't be regulated, because the whole idea of CFTC coming into something like this is like when you have a central entity and they're somewhat opaque and you're relying on them for self-disclosure, self-transparency, self-reporting on all of these things, and you've got to have some sort of accountability and, licenses or whatever around all of that to make sure it's all above board. But DeFi, who are we protecting ourselves from? There is no central company on these things. They're decentralized projects that anyone can contribute to. And so that risk is like kind of on the individual. And that's what Brian Quintenz has said historically, that it's on the individual responsibility to be looking into this. And CFTC actually has no role. And, this whole thing, it made me laugh in a kind of sad, bitter kind of way when I was reading this, because it's like he's saying things like, he acknowledged that regulating crypto would be a departure from the agency's historic role as a commodities regulator. But he said the sector is important enough that the shift would be warranted. It's like... It's like he's saying like, okay. I mean, I would be okay with being the emperor of the world. I think that it's important enough that I'm willing to step up to the plate and rule everything. I know it's a burden on me, but I'm willing to take the job and control all of the things. Like, it's such a blatant power grab, and it's kind of guys like couched in this idea of like, well, we're willing to step into the role because it's so critically important. And he says specifically, I think it's critically important to have a primary cop on the beat. And certainly the CFTC is prepared to do that if the committee so wishes. It's just like such an understated way of saying like, yes, they are trying to get more power over this giant burgeoning industry that is like trillions and trillions of dollars large. So it's just like, I don't know, it just seemed ridiculous to me. Like, you guys should get out of crypto. Like, this isn't your world. But Zach, I'm going to throw this to you.
All right, one CFTC official did get out of, he got into crypto. You mentioned Quintenz, right? He's with Andreessen Horowitz now. He's on the A16Z team, which is ramping up its lobbying efforts in DC itself. So this is my question, just in purely reductionist terms, let's speculate. Is this bullish for crypto regulation or bearish if the CFTC were to take a stronger role relative to the SEC? I'm putting that to you, Naomi, and then we'll shut it down.
That's such a good question, because anytime that the government is focused on attacking each other, it means that they're spending less energy attacking all of the actual people building value in the world. So I kind of encourage that. But at the same time, it isn't uncommon for these turf wars to just continue and for these agencies to just say, well, it's always been my jurisdiction. Well, it's also always been my jurisdiction. So you just end up getting like double jurisdiction, right? So, I mean, I wouldn't put past the government to just be coming down hard on crypto from all angles while they figure out this turf war, which may not be good. I think this is bullish for DeFi, for sure, because at the end of the day, there's no central entity for them to go after. As much as they like to spout the rhetoric about how they're going to start trying, there really is, there is really no central entity in a lot of these things, and code should be protected by free speech laws. So we'll see how that plays out. Definitely bullish for DeFi. We'll see what happens with a lot of these intermediaries and quasi-DeFi, quasi-decentralized organizations. But Jen, I'm going to throw to you for the final story.
Okay, so a new feature on Adobe Photoshop is going to let artists prove that they are creators of artwork on NFT marketplaces. So the new feature is called Content Credentials and captures the identity data as an image it's edited and stored in the I cannot read, in the metadata. And there's a website where you can type in the credentials and that metadata can be verified. So super cool. This came as an innovation from Creator Demand, who are saying, you know, I'm minting my artwork as NFTs, but people can slightly change it or mint copies of it as NFTs. And so what do I do? Adobe's come up with a solution and they're going into beta next month. Zach, I am going to kick this off to you. What do you think of Adobe getting into NFTs?
I just love that photo. It makes me laugh just looking at that photo. It just makes me smile. You know that meme where it's like graphic design is my passion? That's what I think about when I see that photo. So shout out to whoever picked that photo. It wasn't me. Good work. Oh, thank you. Control. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for enhancing that. All right. Thank you. That was good. That was good effect. All right.
Great caricature.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, man. NFTs are just, they just don't go away. They're getting more and more mainstream by the day, right? So they're getting mainstream in terms of where you can sell this stuff. They're getting mainstream in terms of where you can make this stuff. Super interesting. Everybody's going to have an NFT. NFTs are going to be so ubiquitous. One day, even we won't talk about them. That's how ubiquitous NFTs are about to be. But I'm going to toss it to Will.
It's going to be a sad day.
It's going to be a sad day.
So like from a photography or videography standpoint, it makes sense to have something like this because people do steal each other's work quite often. Advertisers steal videographers' work and just throw it up. People like change things, make addendums to it, and then they pass it off as their own. And having some sort of centralized system in a sense that you can kind of keep track of these things, but it's also on a decentralized blockchain. It's pretty cool innovation. And hopefully it does kind of get picked up going down the line. I know that a lot of people do use metadata in the first place to kind of track these things. So I'd be interested to see how much of a better system this is than the current one. Because I think at the baseline, the issue is tracking your photo. Because once it goes live, that can go all over the globe. And that really is the key problem, is keeping track of where it is and if you're getting paid for it.
Yeah, I'll jump in and just say sorry, go ahead, Jen.
No, go for it. I think we only have 1 minute left. Get it in.
So I was going to say, like, although you are talking about this is a way to, you know, confirm that and verify that artists have minted something and it was their work and they own it and whatnot, you know, there is a comment in this article that says, you know, artists complain that even if they mint their art made on Adobe software as NFTs, others can mint imitations of their art. There's no way to prove who is the original creator. So there are a lot of, you know, technical issues that we that we face when we have this meet space meeting the NFT world. So, I mean, it's interesting. Adobe, like, finding an easy way for people to just create things in NFT format makes a lot of sense because everyone's kind of diving into this world right now. The verification side of things, I just don't understand how they're really going to do that. And I also don't like Adobe being kind of like in charge of that verification process. It's just kind of this very centralized thing. Like, if you want to prove something, can't we just verify people own the private key on a blockchain? Like, you know, I don't know. There are just lots of questions that come into mind. Adobe has had a heavy hand as well ever since they moved to Creative Cloud and everything's like you're renting the software rather than actually owning it. They put a lot more controls in place. I found out recently, like, you can't even like put into Photoshop money. I didn't realize that, but they actually stop you and say, like, you know, this is against our code of conduct or whatever. You cannot be editing this. Like, it's ridiculous. Anyone who's in graphic design or in video editing knows that you need graphics like that all the time. So it's crazy that they curtail that use. There are a lot of open source alternatives to Adobe software out there. If you are interested in using something with a bit more freedom, encourage you to explore those things. But Jen, I'll throw to you for final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, the beta comes out next month, so let's give it a go and see how it works. They already have partnerships with OpenSea, Rarible, and Super Rare. So let's see. I mean, Naomi, I think you're absolutely right, but I think this is, again, a bridge for people who are not crypto natives, who are getting into NFTs and they don't really know where to start with verification. I think that this is the right step for them. Let's see how it rolls out, and I'm sure we'll talk about it next month.
I just want to jump in before Zach says goodbyes, because we have comment from the day from our YouTube channel. Comes from Kieran Mosquita. He has created the new noun gas hands, which means someone who's forced to hodl because ETH gas fees are too high to sell. Well done, Kieran. That's very clever. I think there are a lot of people out there with gas hands. So I'm going to throw this to you, Zach. What does Kieran get? Does he get like a desk token? Does he get applause? What's he get?
Jazz hands.
Gas hands.
He gets jazz hands and a hearty handshake, Kieran.
Thanks, Kieran. Will, can you please get your gas hands up?
Gas hands.
Gas hands.
There it is. All right. Good time. Gas hands. All right. We did it. Good work, everybody. That's it for the Hash on a Wednesday. Pretty good show. Good times. We'll be back in on a Thursday, and then we'll be back again on a Friday. That's it for today. We'll be back soon. Check out CoinDesk TV at 3 p.m. for all about Bitcoin. And we hope you have a great one. All right. Gas hands. Boom.
See ya.